In January, our S.M.A. community rejoiced celebrating Father Albert Cooney's 95th birthday. 2 weeks later, we rejoiced celebrating his 65th anniversary of priestly ordination. Re-echoing Pope Francis's speech on the 65th anniversary of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, we celebrate the story of a call that began 65 years ago with Father Al's priestly ordination on February 5th, 1955. St. Peter's response to Jesus' question, "Do you love me?" and his answer, "Lord, you know that I love you," is the generous response that has dominated a life spent entirely in the service of the priesthood, the church, and of a true missionary. Father Al has such a healthy and joyful sense of humor that it is a blessing for the entire S.M.A. family. We wish to conclude with a prayer that Father Cooney will experience to feel the hand of our merciful God supporting him, and will experience and witness the love of God, and that he will continue his golden years in the friendship of our Lord and the protection of his Blessed Mother Mary.
My name is Father Albert Cooney. I was born in Ireland. My parents were, my mother was a former teacher. My father was a farmer. He built his home where I was reared. And I think they were probably married about, or he was probably born about 1880. And he was married in 1912. And we had, there were 13 children, 12 lived, and all of them are deceased now except 3 of us. The 3 of us are in religion. Father Paul was who's deceased. We were 4 of us in the religion. Father Paul was a Colombian father. He was in the Philippines for over 50 years as a missionary in the Colombians. And my brother Stephen, he was a Norbertine father. In 1960, he was assigned to Australia, to a mission in Australia. And he is still there. He just turned 92. My sister, she joined the Sisters of Nazareth in Ireland, still in Australia, in West Australia, where my brother is right now retired. I had the opportunity to visit them there last year. A great visit, a great opportunity to see them. I joined the Society of African Missions. Father McAndrew was a provincial here at the time, and in 1949, I think it was, and he came to Ireland, and he was on the search for vocations. They had opened a seminary in Boston, and in 1949, I was one of those students that came. 4 of us students, or 5, no, many of us there, and there were some sisters. We traveled with some sisters coming to join the sisters in San Antonio. 4 of us went to Boston, to Dedham, to Massachusetts, to do the novitiate and did philosophy there. After 4 years in Dedham, we were then sent to Washington to attend the Catholic University. All of us succeeded in getting ordained in 1955. And after that, we met up with the provincial at the time, and he was Father Harrington, getting my assignment to go to Liberia. It was in December 55, the same year we were ordained. Those of us were sent to going to Liberia. So we went by ship in those days. We didn't fly. And so we left here in December. On Christmas Day, we landed in Sierra Leone. And then we went back on the ship and then made a few more stops before we got to Monrovia. And then they made plans for us to get us to Cape Palmas. And so I went to a place called Sino. It was there was no roads going there. There was no roads to Sino. We had two other priests there when I arrived in Sino. One of us, Father Grimley, who later became the bishop of Cape, and was a Father Ben, who was after spending 4 years there building the house that they were living in. Sino was considered not a Catholic town. It was called Miracle Liberia Settlement. So the whole concentration was in Sino was have a good school, and we had a good school. Even where we weren't many Catholics, all the Protestants sent their children to the school because they knew it was better than the public school. And so I was there for 3 years in that parish, and I saw that parish. I saw that cathedral going up. I was assigned in Cape Palmas when that cathedral was being built, and I said one of the first masses in there, and had all the furniture for the church made by local carpenters, and so it was a busy time. And then we had this at the same time. At that time, we had the boarding school as well. A lot of kids on the high school and boarding school, and grammar school, and sisters, Bernadine sisters were in the grammar school, and also helping to run the high school as well. But I came back here and came to the United States. After some time, we were given some time to rest. The provincial and whatever council decided that I shouldn't be going back to Liberia. I was assigned to go to California, St. Odelia's Parish in California, where we had a couple of priests there already. They had a good school, running a good school there, good congregation coming to mostly African Americans. We had another church called the Mission, St. John Bosco Mission. Mexicans who attended that. They were Spanish speaking anyhow. And Father Manning, who learned Spanish, to be able to cater to them, every day he went there to say Mass in that parish. And the school was good. It was a good run. They had a very good school there in that parish. St. Odelia's Parish is still operating today. Sometime later, I know I may have some assignments in between, but I know I was assigned to Chicago, and Father Hill was in charge of there at the time. We had a big program going with promoting the Perpetual Mass Association. We had a good number of people employed on the office. First of all, I went to Chicago. First, I was working in a parish, in Brendan's parish, assigned to go to work with Father Hill in the promotion house. So I was supposed to go back to Liberia at this particular time. So I had a ticket ready to go back to Liberia, but the word came, the civil war has reached a stage now that nobody's wanted back. The bishops don't want anybody going back there. So I asked Father Murray, Father Sylvester, what are they going to do? And shortly after that, we had this call from Naples in Florida. It was during the Gulf War, I remember that. And one of the priests, who was a Navy chaplain, was recalled, and he wanted somebody to replace him. So I went to Naples, and there was a Father Leger, and the pastor, and myself. It was a big parish, St. William's Parish in Naples. Father Leger, he had been, he was an S.M.A, but he had joined the diocese. That was the connection. I was there then for 2 years, I think, in Naples, and then I was appointed to another parish, Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, in Pine Island. So I was there for another year, and when I came, I think it was when I came to reach the age of 70, I decided that I would retire. I want to go back to the missions. Well, in 2002, we had the provincial came back from Africa after a visitation of the missions, and he came back and he made the request to any of the fathers who were in good health, whether they were retired or otherwise, and free with great need for them in Kenya. So I decided I'll give it a try. So I was assigned, said okay, you can go. And 2002 to 2005, I was in Nairobi area, in the Archdiocese of Nairobi, and the mission. The place was called Mbulbul. So it was quite a change from Liberia. The whole landscape was a whole lot different from it was so built up compared to Liberia, and so it was quite a pleasant. Usually missionaries go to school to learn the language, for the first 6 months of it. I didn't do that, but I did learn how to. I did learn how to say Mass in Swahili and to hear confessions in Swahili, but I couldn't go into conversational except for small talk, to learn the language, because I didn't expect to stay any more than a year. I was just volunteer for a year. So it worked out. I was in that parish. It was the parish. There was a lot of poverty and the living condition, but whatever the pastor had access to some money. He was an Irish pastor, but I think he had great support from his people at home supporting him, supporting the mission, because he was able to build a very fine residence and to build a great, practically looked like more like a hospital than a clinic, and had sisters running this place, running the clinic. And then eventually he built what would be practically more like a cathedral than an ordinary mission church. We did very well. Then so they had many fundraisers. They would ask the bishop there make a contribution to the building of the new church. One of the fathers had a mission out of quite a way out of Nairobi, out in the country, and I went to visit him. I'm here with in a field, a tea farm. The only place I've seen tea growing before was being in a bag, a tea bag. Here I see it growing, so I thought it would be a good thing. That was a very good experience. 4 years ago, I decided to retire from Florida. So it was I counted a great blessing to be able to serve the Lord and serve His people, and great gratitude to God and great to the S.M.A. fathers.
Happy anniversary, Father Al.